It's time for Kadlec On Call on 610 KONA. It's your opportunity to call in and get your health questions answered. Call 547-1610. That's 547-1610. Now, here's Jim Hall.
And a good Wednesday evening, everyone. Jim Hall with you live tonight. Happy September 2nd. Here in the Tri-Cities on a beautiful Wednesday evening. Cool, but beautiful. The sun is out, which is good news. And the temperatures are cooling. Fall is definitely in the air. And certainly the start of the school year is upon us around the Tri-Cities area. And we figured tonight we would kick off our new year, if you will, of live Kadlec On Calls, talking about a real important issue, especially relative to our youth population, high school age kids and even middle school kids who are getting ready to further their educational careers, and we want to certainly further yours and their education as it relates to a very important topic, and that is the issue of the use of prescription drugs among teens. And I was alarmed to find out in doing some research for tonight's program that in the state of Washington, 11% of teens in the state of Washington use medicines for non-medical reasons, which means they're using prescription drugs to do for non-medical reasons, obviously, and for their own enjoyment, if you will. And so tonight we thought we'd bring in some folks who have expertise in this area to talk about the issue, why it's a problem, how to solve the problem, and an event that will be happening on September 26th around the Tri-Cities area, a prescription drug take-back day. So with us live in the studio tonight, we're happy to have with us Jennifer Dorsett, who is the community coordinator for the Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition, a high school senior for the Prosser Mustangs, Zebby Castilleja. He is a member also of this Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition. He's also a student representative on the Prosser City Council, very active young man up in the community of Prosser, and he's also very involved in Jennifer's group on the Substance Abuse Coalition, and we want to get his perspective, and certainly it's folks in his peer group, his age group, that we're trying to target this message at tonight. And also with us from the Pasco Police Department is Officer Ray Aparicio, and he is with the Pasco's Discovery Coalition. And so that is, in essence, the Franklin County version of the Substance Abuse Coalition. So tonight we wanted to touch on this issue because really it is a very important issue and certainly one that we all need to be aware of, especially those of us who have kids in the junior high and high school, even younger age groups, I guess, as we'll probably find out from our guests tonight. Jennifer, let's start with you. And first of all, let's just talk about the issue. I gave a couple of quick statistics, but how prevalent are prescription drugs being used by kids, in essence, for recreational purposes?
Well, Jim, thanks for having us.
Sure, you're welcome. Happy you're here.
Thanks. If for Benton and Franklin counties, we're just under the state statistics. We have just under 10% of our youth in 10th grade are saying that they are using prescription drugs for non-medical reasons. And when you really look at, drug abuse in our communities and throughout our state, what you see is a lot of 12 and 13-year-olds trying out prescription drugs because those are what is most accessible to them. People have prescription drugs in the home that they don't use and don't monitor. And so it's easy for kids to get, and it's easy for folks not to notice how they got it or where they got it.
Now, certainly they get the access to them, but how do they learn about them? And how do they learn about, hey, look, if you use these, you can, in essence, get high or get, have this mind-altering feeling?
That is such a great question. Zebby, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, that's a great transition to introduce Zebby because he is a senior at Prosser High School, and he was telling me that this has been his passion for a couple of years. But I guess from what you know of this situation, whether they're kids in the high school age group or even younger, as Jennifer was saying, what attracts them to this?
Yeah, Jim, I think a big issue is that some of their parents may abuse drugs, and so they see that, and then they have the perception that, it's not necessarily bad for you. They have the perception that these pills won't affect you in a bad way. They like the feeling. What I often observe is that if they're abusing pain pills, that they're possibly abusing other drugs as well.
Officer Aparicio with the Pasco Police Department, a question for you, and you guys can let's just have a wide-ranging discussion on this because it just pops into a lot of questions, and to capitalize on what Zebby just said on what it is about, it's the access, I guess, but is it Is it more than just the old alcohol or marijuana? Now it's is it that it's gotten more serious, or if you will, or it's moved to this way?
Well, it is definitely the access. And, if a lot of these kids may have single parents or something, many are living with their grandparents, and grandparents are notorious for not locking up their medication. So this is a learning experience. We're out there to teach and educate parents and grandparents of these kids of locking up their drugs or getting rid of them, like we are doing with this take back. That accessibility is the key, though. As long as there's some kind of access for these kids, they're going to be tempted, and it's all about opportunity, and we want to get rid of that opportunity for them.
Jennifer Dorsett, we touched on September 26th as you're doing a prescription drug take-back day. I guess let's set the scene for people. What that's happening on that day? Where are they happening? I know you have different locations, and what can people do, and what should they do? Let's get that out there right now, so
Sure.
As we can continue the discussion, we can keep reminding of when this is.
Yeah. Both of our coalitions do community surveys every year, and we each survey about 300 folks within each of our communities. And through that survey, we found out that over 70% of those that took the survey said they had prescription drugs in the home and they had no idea how to get rid of them. And so when we were looking at, what positive changes can we make within the community around access, especially to our youth, we were like, well, let's have some prescription boxes that are permanent in the community, and let's get on board with the take-back days. Mm-hmm. The DEA hosts take-back days, or have been known to host them in the past. And recently they stopped doing that and really are looking towards community efforts to come forward and put something in place, for their own communities.
So we're doing that.
Yeah. So we got this last day that they're giving us on September 26th from 10 to 2. All the police stations will be participating. And so you can go to West Richland, Kennewick, and they will all have boxes at their locations. Pasco does something a little bit more unique, and they go to Walmart. And they meet people where they're at. And, they say, come bring your meds here. We want to take back your meds and make your kids safer and help you out. So kind of a neat thing they do. Prosser has a permanent take back program. So we take back meds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is located at PMH Medical Center. And West Richland also has a box, which is opened, to the public to use. So if anyone has medications, they can bring them there. And then our coalitions are working very closely with local police departments to put in permanent take-back boxes at every location. So they're like secure
boxes almost, where you just leave them and just drop them in and leave them.
That's right. You can just leave them, bring them anytime. No questions asked. You just put them in the box and you walk away. No liquids, no needles.
I was just going to say, obviously, I'm sure there's criteria as to what is appropriate to be bringing to these on this particular day. Let's just target that day. What kinds of things should people be? What are you really wanting to get? I guess that's the question.
So it is so easy to do, and if anyone had any expired, or if they had prescription drugs that they're not using anymore, they're healed or they feel better, they don't need the hydros or whatever it may be, bring it by. Just drop it in. We don't ask any questions. We're not going to look on the pill bottles to see what kind of pills they are. Just drop them in, and it's just kind of like almost like especially where we're at Walmart. It's almost like a drive-through. You just come in, drop them down, and you're on your way. We might give you a little bit of education, though, about why we're doing some of this stuff.
Well, that's important, and I guess I bring up a privacy question. If they have the pill that has, a name and a phone number or an address, I don't know if they have an address, but I know there obviously a lot of prescriptions have names on them.
This stuff just gets burned.
Okay.
Right away. So that's not going to really matter.
So that's not a concern.
They can take their
or
names
take them
off
actually,
if they
or take them out of
feel better about it,
or do you just take them out of the bottle itself?
We just throw them all out.
Okay.
Last year when Prosser participated, we did ours during the balloon rally, and we had some folks whose parents had passed away, and they brought over 20 pounds of pills just in a plastic bag. So however you want to get rid of it, we take it, and we appreciate the donation.
You did this at the Prosser Balloon Rally last year. How much did you collect?
We collected about 60 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was great. People just we advertised it, around town and said, hey, bring your meds. We'll be here during the balloon rally. And so people were already out and about and then just dropped off their medications.
Okay, so what is the most regularly abused prescription drug for non-medicine uses? I mean, what is there something obviously that stands out that the kids especially are looking for?
Yeah, hydrocodone is prevalent. I mean, that's what most reports that we have are about. But as far as poison control and overdose, I don't have those numbers. But
those are obviously the ones that, the pain meds type things that people read about and learn about and they probably hear about. And Zebby, you touched on it in your opening comments. Is that in the high school and junior high age groups? Is that just, kids learn about it from their friends or they read about it and they have so much information and it's like, hey, did you hear? Is that how this all works?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with what they're using, but it's definitely a perception that grows throughout the school with talking to friends and stuff like that.
Zebby Castilleja is a Prosser High School senior. He's also a member of the Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition. He is here along with Jennifer Dorsett and Ray Aparicio from the Pasco Police Department. We're talking about prescription drug take-back, very important issue. And coming up on September 26th, if you happen to have some expired medications you are no longer in need of or utilizing, we encourage you to drop by any area police department in the Tri-Cities, and in Pasco it will be at the Walmart between 10 and 2 on September 26th, because certainly it's something that let's take that temptation away from these kids to get in the medicine cabinet at home. We have to take our first break of the evening. You're listening to Kadlec On Call. Back with more of our program in just a minute.
You're listening to Kadlec On Call on 610 KONA. This program provides general information only. Any comments or information presented are strictly for educational purposes. Kadlec and 610 KONA do not endorse any of the suggestions made by the presenter or callers. Now back to Kadlec On Call. Once again, Jim Hall.
And welcome back to Kadlec On Call. Jim Hall with you. And tonight we're talking about a very important topic educationally as the start of school is upon us. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to kick off our fall season talking about the issue of prescription drug use among kids around our country and around our community. And it's rising. And it's an alarming rate. And the stat we shared at the top of the program is 11% of teens in Washington State use medicines for non-medical reasons, and it's really becoming an increasing problem. And anyhow, we want to shine some light on this issue tonight, and we're happy to have Jennifer Dorsett from the Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition, Officer Ray Aparicio, who is with the Pasco Discovery Coalition, and Zebby Castilleja is a Prosser High School senior and is also a member of the Prosser Coalition. And we've been talking about the problem. We're talking about this Drug Take-Back Day happening on the 26th of September. And I want to touch on, during this segment, if we could, guys, is the issue of, I think, Jennifer, I'm not sure if we said this on air yet, but you were telling me that the real problem, more so than prescription drugs in Benton and Franklin counties, is the use of alcohol and marijuana among teens and I guess even preteens, it sounds like.
Yeah. And again, that has a lot to do with access. When we talk about access, it's around, it's available. Now marijuana is legal in our state, so that's around, it's available. And, by legalizing things, inadvertently we tell our children, it's okay. So we have to be sure we're having those conversations with them about, how marijuana is still a huge risk for especially kids whose brains are developing. But we have to be able to monitor, any kind of drugs in our home, alcohol, marijuana, prescription drugs, and make sure, that kids aren't getting a hold of those because it really is damaging.
And Officer Aparicio with the Pasco Police Department, is that what you see? I mean, you were telling me, I think you've been a police officer, 13 years with Pasco. And so is that something during that 13 years you're seeing on the rise?
Well, oh, yeah, definitely. As long as people are rationalizing it in the general community, with adults, kids rationalize in their minds. So we definitely want them to see that there is a difference to anyone that's over the age of 21. And, being a child, your mind isn't developed yet. You're not fully grown yet. There's things that these drugs do to you as a child that it doesn't do to adults. With the the full mind yet. So.
And Zebby Castilleja is our high school representative. I guess you have a little bit of a more bird's eye perspective, if you will, because it's your peer group that we're trying to target tonight. But is at the high school level, whether it's in Prosser or the Tri-Cities, or I guess it doesn't depend. It doesn't matter the size of the school. These issues are out there.
Yeah, Jim. Kids or teenagers in high school are really starting to get this perception that marijuana is legal, so it's okay for them to smoke it regardless of the fact that they're not 21 years old yet. So I think education about marijuana and the new laws that come with this is that we go out and educate them on the facts, and there's also the perception that marijuana doesn't affect you, and some kids think that it helps them focus in the classroom, and there's statistics that show that that's wrong, and so this education piece is huge, and I think it's part of our job to go out in the community and educate parents and youth on this issue, and that parents have these conversations with their kids and let them know that they're not 21 yet, and that there's real life consequences to using marijuana before the age of 21.
At the risk of embarrassing you, you are a very well-spoken young man. I just have to say that, and I want to take a minute and have you talk to our audience about why this issue for you. And what got you interested in being such an advocate for this issue?
Yeah, I grew up in a family that abused drugs and alcohol, and so growing up around that issue, I really saw that the consequences of it, and I was a child that had to deal with some of those consequences of my family abusing drugs and alcohol. I also have always wanted to become a police officer. And so having that goal in my mind, I know that using drugs or alcohol will affect my goal. And I think it's important that as a youth myself, I advocate for drug prevention because as a youth, when I educate some students about this, they might take it into consideration rather than an adult telling them this stuff.
Okay, I have to ask you though, do you encounter any resistance among your peers?
Oftentimes I do. I'll give them a statistic or something that I read about, and they'll tell me that's not true. They don't know where I'm getting this information. But I think it's just there's some ignorance there, and it's their choice. I mean, I can't change what they do, but I can definitely educate them about their choices.
And you were telling me that you became really passionate about this your freshman year. Was that just a time that you hit high school and you said, I want to tackle this?
I've always been really passionate about drug prevention just because of growing up in a situation like that. And so when this opportunity came up and Jennifer reached out to me to become part of the coalition, I was really pleased to accept that offer and to know that there was finally something in the community that was gonna do something positive for the whole community and educate youth on this issue.
Jennifer, tell me about you call it the Prosser CIA Coalition. Is it primarily focused in Prosser, but you also serve Benton County as well, or is it? Tell us about that.
Sure. The state decided to give Benton County funding based on the Healthy Youth Survey results, and there was a need in Prosser. And then Prosser had to accept, the terms of the contract as far as community involvement, school involvement, city involvement. Mm-hmm. So we have 12 different sectors represented on our coalition, whether it be law enforcement, youth, civic organizations. We have several members, about 30. And we meet once a month, and we come together and we talk about what's happening in the community, how we can make a difference, and then we do it. So it's
Give
really
me an example of some of the others. Obviously, you said at the Prosser Balloon Rally you did this particular doing the drug take-back
Yeah.
events, but obviously you must be doing other things.
Yeah. We work with the city and local law enforcement to do store scans. So that is when you go into a store and you say, where is the alcohol located? Where are the cigarettes located? Where, are maybe pipes or vaporizers located? Are those easily accessible or visual for children? Could they be moved into a safer place, or where they could be more easily monitored by staff that's currently at the store, stuff like that. And then we make those positive suggestions. We also work with the local school district to implement evidence-based programming to all their 6th through 8th grade students called Second Steps. And it's a great, great curriculum. It has 4 series on alcohol and drug information. So every student through 6th to 8th grade gets those series. And we pre and post test to try and see what results we're getting from those.
Explain pre and post test.
So we test the kids at the beginning to see what knowledge they have. And then at the end, we post test and see what knowledge they've gained. And then we're able to have some data to show, the results of the program, or if we need to make changes. So it's really great. We try to get into the community. We do speaker events where we try to educate parents and anyone who will come. And then we also host a parenting program called Guiding Good Choices, and Pasco does this as well. And you can just sign up, and it's 5 sessions. And basically the course is just that, guiding good choices. It's helping your kids through those transition years. When your kids go into 6th grade, things change. Things are different. You've got way more peer pressure, drug availability increases. You have classes versus just one teacher. There's just a lot of social emotional strain that happens for students. And so Guiding Good Choices parenting program really just helps parents navigate those changes, having those hard conversations. What do you say to your kids about drugs? Well, we talk about it.
That has to be very effective. I'm guessing you get really good feedback from parents.
It is amazing. It is by far the best parenting thing that we've ever done. We had 50 parents sign up and complete last year, which is an amazing retention rate for a parenting program.
Meaning they attended all 5 sessions.
Yep. They started and finished. So it was amazing. We had great feedback from all the parents, and we're getting ready to start our next session on September 24th. So we're really excited about it.
And Officer Aparicio, you're doing the same thing in Pasco?
Yeah, and then actually Jennifer used to be our coordinator for a short little time. So and she works really, really well with our coordinator that we have, which is Kelly Larson. And they work in tandem. So all the things that she's talking about, we call ours the alcohol access team, where we go to the stores and check to see where the alcohol's at, and then giving advice to the maybe managers or something to prevent maybe shoplifting or anything. But Guiding Good Choices, all those things that we do here as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled we're able to shine the light on these programs. I was not aware of the scope of I've known the substance abuse coalitions have been around for years in our community in varying ways, and it's really impressive to see what you're doing and what they're doing most visibly on September 26th is hosting a prescription drug take-back day. And if you have expired or unused medications that you no longer need for medical purposes, you can drop them off at any area police department, Richland, Pasco, and Kennewick, and West Richland. In Pasco, they'll be doing it at Walmart on the 26th between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So please scour your medicine cabinet and get out any medicines that you're not needing to keep them away and keep that temptation away from our youth. We have to take our bottom hour of the break of Kadlec On Call, and we will return with the second half of our program in just a moment.
You're listening to Kadlec On Call on 610 KONA. This program is not a substitute for direct consultation with your own healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare provider for your specific condition, especially if you have or suspect you may have a medical problem. Now back to Kadlec On Call. Here again, Jim Hall.
And welcome back to Kadlec On Call. Tonight we're talking about Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, which is September the 26th here in the Tri-Cities. All area police departments, West Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, and Richland, will be participating. In the city of Pasco, that take-back program will be held at the Walmart here in Pasco and the other police departments. You can drop your prescription drugs unused at those area police departments. So that's happening on the 26th of September from 10 to 2. And as we have touched on in the first half hour of our program, it's a very serious problem in our state, in our community, and whether it's the use of prescription drugs, whether it's the use of alcohol or marijuana, as we heard, that just because now in the state of Washington it's legal, we're hearing now that the incidence and the temptation is even more so among our youth. And I was amazed again to learn that it's not just the high school ages, it's happening even into the middle school age groups as well. So very serious topic, but we're getting a lot of great information from our guest, Jennifer Dorsett, from the Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition. And Zebi Castilleja is a Prosser High School senior. He's also a member of that same coalition and very active in educating his peers about the dangers of drug and alcohol use. And he's an aspiring police officer. And on that topic, we have Officer Ray Aparicio with the Pasco Police Department, who is involved in substance abuse activities in the coalition in the Franklin County side as well. So a lot of expertise to share with you tonight and good information. And I want to talk a little bit, Jennifer, in the first half, you talked about you survey the kids on a regular basis, or is it parents, or both, or you do it? You told me you have this healthy use surveys that you do periodically.
Yeah, we as a coalition have to do an annual assessment, and that's for folks over 18 that live in the community. But each year, the school districts in all of our surrounding areas provide a healthy youth survey, which is given to 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade every 2 years. So it kind of tracks their progress through their secondary, school. So, yeah, what we find is use starts early, 6th grade. They're saying they're using, and then it goes all the way till 12th. So our concerns and our focuses are as early and as often as we can go.
Do you know how far these 2-year surveys have gone back? I mean, are we seeing progress being made, or are we seeing the problem shifting to different types of drug use and alcohol use or prescription drug use? Is that what, obviously, the beauty, I'm guessing, of what these surveys tell you?
Well, what happened was a long time ago, each district used to get safe and drug-free school money, and it got spread so thin that it really wasn't making positive impacts for the whole district. And so what they started to do was implement this healthy youth survey. It's been about a decade now, and they decided to take that money and give it to the districts that showed the highest need through the Healthy Youth Survey. So that's actually how our coalitions were developed, is through the need that was found within the Healthy Youth Survey. Pasco was in cohort 1. They chose the coalitions over 3 years. So Pasco was in cohort 1 and Prosser was in cohort 3. So we are the final stages and dollars that will be given out.
And the idea being is to obviously monitor and hopefully identify where you can actually do these kinds of things. That, hey, we need to address this type of thing. Is that what you're finding with this, Ray?
Yeah, definitely. And we're not trying to say that all kids use, because not all kids use. As a matter of fact, usually these surveys show us most kids don't use. So, but this is showing us where we need to stress more of our efforts and especially educating parents and stuff. So
you brought up a really interesting point. I want to have our high school representative here, Zebi Castilleja, address this. And to Officer Aparicio's point, Zebi, the vast majority of your friends and peers and kids of your age group and middle school age group, great kids, right? They're doing good things.
Yeah, absolutely. He brought up the point of, everybody's doing it, that perception. I think that perception is huge among high schoolers and middle schoolers, because they truly do think that everybody's doing it, and they think
I need
it's
to too.
What's that?
And that I need to too as a result.
Yeah, and they think, and it's that peer pressure that they feel obligated to start using with their friends, and if they don't use, they're not going to feel accepted or like they're cool. But the fact is that everybody's not doing it, and so again, it's that whole education piece that we need to go out and tell them, not everybody is doing it.
I wanted to touch on, obviously, the age group that we're dealing with, but we also live in a very diverse community here in the Tri-Cities area and in our region. And do we see the same things among the Hispanic population? Is it the same types of drugs that are tempting our youth in the Hispanic culture as well?
Well, one of my main concerns is the use of alcohol. And I was telling you a story during the break that when I was young, which about 30 years ago now. But when I was young, I was told that alcohol is okay, and that's when I was 15 years old, and I would drink pretty heavily at that time. But I was told that it was okay by my family members. So culturally, they were telling me it's accepted. Every family member's house I went to, that was just okay for me to drink with them. So I was hoping 30 years later that it would be different. So I was teaching a class in one of the local schools, and I asked the students, "Is that common? I hope it's not like that anymore." And I was told by some that it was still that way. I was hoping things, with education, things would have changed.
Is it, and you touched on, I think, the way that some kids, regardless of their ethnicity, come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So is it more prevalent in kids that come from disadvantaged families that don't have financial resources that others do, or may not have a two-parent family at home? Is that what you're seeing, or is that?
I mean, I really think it has to do with your demographic area. So, I mean, it's different everywhere in the state. I mean,
Sure.
Where here we have a high Hispanic population, yes, more Hispanic people use. But where, if you go to Idaho, that might not be the answer. So when you're looking at, those different demographics, then
Well, and even
really
socioeconomic of how,
Right.
if their parents are, or if their family is a lower income family and they're going to be more tempted, or maybe even not the hereditary, but it's,
Right.
to your point that was, well, if you come from a background, and Zebby, I think you touched on it, that's what got your passion going, was that you had, in your family, you had to deal with this.
Yeah, I think some of these kids may be turning to drugs or alcohol because their problems go away for a little bit, and the drug may numb whatever they're feeling, or they may be depressed and seeking these drugs as a cry for help, sort of. And so I think kids who are, going through difficult situations in their home life can be the ones who turn to drugs or alcohol to kind of solve their problems.
And you touched on, back to one final point on your age group, because what your perspective fascinates me is the other, as we were saying, that, the perception maybe to some kids is that, well, I got to do it because everybody's doing it, and that's not necessarily the case. But how much of it is just the cool factor?
I think, especially in middle school and transitioning into high school, I think that's a really big part of it, is because your middle school years, you're trying to kind of figure out who you are as a person, and you're kind of just a confused teenager. Those are challenging years. And I think you're just trying to find acceptance and be cool. And I think for whatever reason, the kids who are going out to parties and using drugs and alcohol are the ones who are perceived as the cool kids to hang out with. And so I think that in an effort to fit in with them, these kids who aren't using start using to hang out with these kids who are going to the parties and using drugs.
And we've touched on virtually every other kind of breakdown. Is there a difference between boys and girls?
Yes. Oh. Yes, there is. Actually, women and girls are more likely to abuse prescription drugs, and men are more likely to abuse marijuana. We find a good mix in between alcohol. And it doesn't mean that, one uses prescription drugs and one doesn't. It's a concern for everyone. But definitely the numbers are showing, more women use prescription drugs, more men use marijuana.
Interesting topic. We have to take our final break of the evening. We're visiting with Jennifer Dorsett and Zebby Castilleja. They are with the Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition, and they're doing wonderful work to educate folks of all ages about the dangers of prescription drug abuse and drug and alcohol abuse. And Officer Ray Aparicio with the Pasco Police Department. He's also with the Pasco Discovery Coalition. And again, a reminder, the 26th of September between 10 and 2 at area police departments in Richland, West Richland, and in Kennewick, and at the Walmart in Pasco, the Pasco Police Department. All of these police departments will be collecting prescription drugs that you don't need anymore. Please drop them by and dispose of them safely so they're not a temptation to our youth, whether they're in your household or friends of your youth that come into your home. We have to take our final break of the evening. Back with our remaining minutes of Kadlec On Call in just a minute.
You're listening to Kadlec On Call on 610 KONA. This program provides general information only. Any comments or information presented are strictly for educational purposes. Kadlec and 610 KONA do not endorse any of the suggestions made by the presenter or callers. Now back to Kadlec On Call. Once again, Jim Hall.
And just a few minutes left with our guest tonight talking about prescription drug use among teens and youth. And it's a real serious problem. And as I don't know that I was surprised, to learn, but I was, alarmed to learn of the magnitude of the problem in our community, and whether it's prescription drugs or obviously I think most all of us know that, drugs and marijuana and alcohol and things like that. But even the prescription drugs are becoming more of a temptation for families in our communities. And so we have Jennifer Dorsett and Zebby Castilleja from the Prosser CIA Substance Abuse Coalition and Officer Ray Aparicio from the Pasco Police Department, and they're here to share with us a little bit about what's happening and what they're doing to educate people. And even Zebby, it's great having you here. Zebby's a high school senior, and to hear him talk about what he learns from his peers, and that he's not afraid to have that dialogue with his friends. I'm guessing friends. You probably talk to your friends about it too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. In fact, that's kind of a funny point to bring up. I do have friends who are under the perception that, marijuana it doesn't affect you in a bad way. I have friends who abuse alcohol on the weekends, and I think it's just one of those things that all high schoolers experience, whether, it be a friend or an acquaintance, or, someone that that they've heard of before. But the issue is out there, and it's up to us to educate them about it.
And I'm going to give you the last word, because I want to go to Jennifer and to Ray before we have to leave the air tonight. But I want to give each of you an opportunity. Let's maybe start with you, Jennifer, before we go. Is all of this information that you've been sharing, we've been learning about tonight, what would be a key takeaway message, whether, we have a parent listening at home, or maybe even, some high school age kids listening to this? What would your message to them be?
I mean, for me, it's unused and expired medications are a public safety issue. And they lead to accidental poisoning, they lead to overdose, and they can lead to abuse. And so it's so important to get rid of your unused medication and do it properly, not flushing it down the toilet and, damaging the water system, not throwing it in the garbage, because you know what? People find your medication in the garbage. Mm-hmm. And also, if you are going to keep your medication, which, many of us just do that, to keep it locked up or to log it so that you know what you have and, who's using it. Just to, be knowledgeable about what's happening in your home. You wouldn't think somebody would take your prescription medication, but when somebody wants prescription medication, they're going to find it.
And Officer Ray Aparicio from the Pasco Police Department. Obviously, you go all over the city of Pasco in an educational mode, I'm guessing, most of your time. What is your takeaway message to folks that you work with, and I guess to the message of the larger audience of our radio listenership tonight?
Yeah, I would say, I would piggyback on the same thing, is making sure that, when you get prescription medication, like when I have back pain or something, if they're trying to give me 25, I'm saying, doctor, I don't need 25. Just give me 3 or something that will last for my pain. I don't think you need to take all those medications. But if you do take them, don't hold on to them. Don't hold on to them if it's accessible to kids, or sometimes people you invite over to your house. You don't sometimes know who your kids' friends are, and they're going to go through your medicine cabinet and stuff. So even though you trust your kid, it might be your kids' friends or other people trying to get it. Plus, they may try to sell it, too.
So it almost is like, even if you have alcohol in the home or firearms in the home, be responsible with your medications. Know
what you have. Even with alcohol, know how much you have. Make sure it's not watered down or anything. Kids try to be sneaky sometimes, but.
And Zebby Castilleja, Prosser High School senior and a very eloquent spokesperson for this particular issue. I'll give you the final word, because I think you probably carry the most important and powerful message to the audience that we're trying to reach tonight.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I have this thing called the 5-year rule, and now it's kind of the 1-year rule now that I'm a senior. But oftentimes, if my friends are going to make the decision to go out and use, I ask them, how is this going to affect you in 5 years? This may affect the college that you get into, your dream job, stuff like that. How is this going to turn around and one day jeopardize, what you've always wanted to do? And so I think it's really important that what they have presented to them in a matter of seconds and a decision they have to make in a matter of seconds, how's that going to affect them in 5 years?
Well, very powerful words and very impressive words from you. And I want to just say thank you. And Jennifer has one last word to say.
From our coalitions, both in Pasco and Prosser, I just really want to give a shout out to all the police departments for coming on board to do the Drug Take Back Day and really recognizing that need within the community. We really appreciate their support, and we hope that you utilize that service on September 26th from 10 to 2.
Awesome. And we'll just conclude by saying that one last time. The 26th of September from 10 to 2. All area police departments in the Tri-Cities, West Richland, Kennewick, and Richland. You can drop your prescription drugs off at those respective police departments. And in the city of Pasco, they will have a drop-off location at the Walmart over on Road 68 in Pasco. Again, our thanks to all of our guests tonight. And thank you for listening to Kadlec On Call. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next Wednesday night.